Good afternoon and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting for the Natural Resource Board, Tuesday, February 1st, 2022. If we could have a call to order, please, and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have roll call, please?
Yes. Dr. Carrier.
Here. Here.
Ms. Callahan.
Present.
Mr. Carano.
Here.
Mr. Stadelman.
Here.
Ms. Mosbleck. If she comes on, I'll add her later. And Mr. Bradley.
Hi, sorry, this is Marcus Bradley.
Thank you.
Thanks for everybody coming today and for participating online.
And I'm here too.
What's that?
I'm here too.
Oh, yeah, okay. Did we have roll call for everybody?
Did I miss you? I'm so sorry. Ms. Ware.
Present.
Thank you.
And we appreciate your presence, Ms. Ware. And we'll move on to item 4, announcements. Ms. Hagler, do you have some announcements for us?
Sorry. Yeah, the first one is the Pelican Island Wildlife Festival, which you've always participated in the past. They actually didn't hold a festival last year. And this year we'll be holding a festival on March 12th through 13th, but it will not be at Riverview Park. It will be at their refuge. It'll be a much smaller event focused on activities and outreach more than vendors. Just wanted to let the board know and everyone know that. It'll be 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And again, it's at the Wildlife Refuge, not at Riverview Park. I let them know that we were interested in helping them if they needed anything, and they'll get back to us if they want. And then also, Andover County has been hosting a series of workshops on the future of the growth and land use in the county. It's a really interesting series of workshops, and the next one is this Thursday, 10 a.m. to noon, and it's at the Intergenerational Center on Oslo Road. If you've never been there, if you go on Oslo Road, you can't miss it. It's a giant red building with a big reader board sign out front, and it's they're discussing options for responsible growth, and it's really interesting. And if you go online, you can see some of their previous presentations, so you have an idea of the topics they're going to cover. But I just thought it'd be something the board members might be interested in. That's it.
I apologize. I didn't hear the organization that's doing the March 12th and 13th.
That's the Pelican Island Wildlife Festival.
Pelican Island Wildlife Festival. Okay.
That's the Pelican Island Conservation Society that does it every year.
Yeah, we usually do that down at Riverview, and
They
this
didn't
year
hold
it's
one
at
last
the
year.
Wildlife Refuge.
And this year they just wanted it to be a smaller event, so doing it at the refuge itself. So it's not going to have a lot of vendors. I let them know we were happy to help or have a booth, so they'll let us know as it develops further.
Oh, great. Excellent. Be glad to go there. Any additional announcements?
That's all I have.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 5, public input. Anybody in the public would like to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Graham Cox, 1213 George Street. It's good to see you all.
Good seeing you too, sir.
I wasn't going to come tonight, but I just felt I couldn't miss an opportunity to talk about the lagoon. And I want to bring to your attention, and when I'm done with this, if you want, I can have Kim circulate it to all the members of the Natural Resources Board. 2 articles appeared in the TC Palm on January the 29th. One was an editorial, which they had lifted from the Orlando Sentinel, but it's a good thing to find. And the other was an article by two well-known science figures in this county by Grant Gilmore and Bill Loftus. Between them, they claim to have 100 years of experience doing research into water, fresh water, marine water, fisheries, you name it, they've been doing it, and I've known both of them for many years. I want to read an extract, if I can, from the Orlando Sentinel editorial, and I'll do it as quickly as I can without flubbing it. This week's frigid snap had many Floridians worried about the fate of cold-stressed and starving manatees already dying in record numbers. The concern is justified. Last year, more than 1,100 manatees died, more than double the toll of the next worst year on record, with many showing clear signs of starvation. Scientists are pulling more emaciated and possibly doomed manatees from the water on a daily basis. And there's more at stake than the survival of one beloved species. Throughout the Indian River Lagoon, seagrass beds are vanishing, and those same beds that feed manatees also provide critical spawning grounds. Sorry about that. Shall I start again?
Yes, sir.
Throughout the Indian River Lagoon, seagrass beds are vanishing, and those same beds that feed manatees also provide critical spawning grounds for fish, shrimp, and other marine species that contribute to the lagoon's reputation as one of the most biologically diverse estuaries in the United States. A treasure is being poisoned to death right before our eyes, and Florida leaders have warned time and again that this, or have been warned time and again, that this was likely to happen. I'm jumping a little bit here. The lagoon's distress, first heralded through blooms of thick goopy algae blooms that cover the surface of the lagoon as far north as Brevard County, has become dramatically worse. So I'll jump from the editorial to the op-ed piece by Grant Gilmore and Bill Loftus, and read you a couple of excerpts from that. And it picks up from the problems with, not just the problems with manatees, but with the lagoon as a whole, and what's growing and what's not growing. Do you know that whatever you put on your lawn or send to your septic tank or local sewage treatment plant will end up in local canals or streams and eventually goes into the Indian River Lagoon and the ocean? You must have seen the roadside signs that say, all canals lead to the lagoon. Thanks to global research on water quality, we now know much more about toxic water and the harm it causes in our lakes, streams, and coastal waters. These toxic effects are diverse and complex. It turns out we're all responsible for them and must find ways to stop them if we want a healthy environment. No one is out of the woods. Pesticides and herbicides can cause significant health problems in humans, as well as wildlife and native plants and pets. Did you know that 30% of the oxygen you breathe comes from algae-like minute diatoms that are abundant in nearly all waters throughout the world? Recent US EPA data shows that atrazine, simazine, and glyphosate used on farms and lawns kill good algae like diatoms and can harm fish and invertebrates, including endangered species. Herbicides may promote blooms of toxic cyanobacteria, like the green slime microcystis, pouring from Lake Okeechobee, which is implicated in Parkinson's disease and dementia. I'll stop there simply to say that we're getting more and more of these kind of comments, learned kind of comments on what's happening to the lagoon and what's getting in there. And I just want to make sure you're going to talk about the lagoon tonight and marine aquatic preserve programs. Just keep thinking we're all responsible. It's not the city council, it's not you, it's all of us. And this article goes on to point out some of the things that we can do as a whole, as individuals, as a family, and homeowners. And I really, I'm grateful for once to the TC Palm for publishing these two very useful articles and op-ed pieces. If it will be useful, I'll happily give them to Kim, and we'll spread them around, spread the joy around here.
Thank you, Dr. Cox.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there any additional public input? Anybody on Zoom?
No one has raised their hand.
Thank you. We'll move on to new business. Item 6, there's a little change in our schedule today. We're going to miss item B. Our guest speaker, Ms. Linderman from Pelican Island Elementary Eco Troop, is going to reschedule for next month's meeting. So tonight is for the Indian River Lagoon Aquatic Preserves Program with our guest speakers, Irene Arpashoglo, I hope I said that right, and Caitlin Britton from FDEP's Indian River Lagoon Aquatic Preserves Program. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I hope I didn't destroy your name.
No, you did a good job.
Thank you.
So I'm here to talk to you about the Leave No Trace initiative that the Indian River Lagoon Aquatic Preserves Office started up a few years ago. So a little background about the Indian River Lagoon Aquatic Preserves. Our office is part of the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, the Office of Resilience and Coastal Protection, and we manage 7 of the state's 42 aquatic preserves. Our office is based in Fort Pierce, and we manage 7 aquatic preserves starting from the Mosquito Lagoon in Volusia County, the Banana River, the 3 that comprise the Indian River, the North Fork St. Lucie River, and Loxahatchee Lake Worth Creek. And within the Indian River Lagoon, we manage spoil islands for recreation and for conservation. So some of the projects that we do throughout the lagoon include research, education and outreach, monitoring of seagrasses, bird nesting monitoring, and, like I mentioned before, managing spoil islands for recreation and conservation. So recreational use of these spoil islands as state-owned lands is an important component of our management programs. We like to keep these islands open to the public so that everybody can enjoy them. So in 2016, we partnered with the Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics. They're an organization based out of Boulder, Colorado, and they have national and international programs. And they developed out of the need to address the unwanted impacts that we were seeing in natural areas from normal human recreation. And a lot of it just came about because people didn't know about the impacts that they have when they're out in the public or out in natural areas recreating, whether it's the backcountry parts of some of our national parks or whether they're what we call front country, like just regular urban parks. So I'm going to skip ahead on some of these slides here, not focus so much on the Leave No Trace Center, but more on our program here. So why do we need Leave No Trace? We've seen that in the past, this chart is over 100 years, the increase in numbers of visitors to recreational areas, whether they're national parks, state parks, just natural areas. So we're in the hundreds of millions of visitors per year to these areas. And this data doesn't even include the usage that we were seeing during COVID lockdowns, where all the land managers that we spoke with in our region and around the country were seeing huge increases in the amount of usage of people. As other areas like shopping malls and things were closed down, people were turning to natural areas for recreation. And we started seeing much greater impacts than we normally see. And we call that loving nature to death. People go out to these areas to enjoy them, and unknowingly, or in some cases, like you see these pictures, you know the impacts you are causing there. So in the last 5 years, some of our national parks, they count their visitors. They had 1.5 billion visitors in the last 5 years, which when you think of how many people go there, and the impacts that they have, not just showing up in buses and cars, but things like infrastructure, like restroom facilities, people walking on trails, people going off trails, all of those things have impacts on our natural areas. And it breaks it down here on some of the more popular parks like Grand Canyon. Zion National Park had 4.5 million visitors in 1 year. So those are really, really high numbers that just seem to increase. In Florida, in our national parks that we have here, in 2018, we had almost 500,000 visitors in Biscayne Bay National Park and over 1,600,000 in Canaveral National Seashore, just up the road from here. And Dry Tortugas, 56,000 visitors, and that's an area that doesn't have fresh water. So all that water has to be brought in for people. So all of these people do cause impacts, but we don't want to keep people from using our natural areas. Here in Florida, here in our area, the lagoon is a huge source of revenue for tourism, it's businesses, for homeowners, property values. So allowing people to enjoy that by educating them on how they can do it sustainably is a very important component. So here, these are some of the impacts that we see on our spoil islands. There's people leaving trash, burning of natural vegetation. Our islands have no facilities, so we ask people, when you go to the islands, pack out your waste. Just like you pick up after your dog when you take them for a hike, you have to pick up after yourselves. And as you see in these pictures, some people build toilets, which are illegal toilets on these islands, that we've had to work with the health department to see how to address that, because it's a biohazard, a source of contamination. And we can't ask volunteers to come and pick that up. Other impacts that we see around the lagoon of recreational use are birds entangled with fishing line. This is on a daily basis. Sebastian Inlet State Park, they have a monitoring program for all the entangled birds that they have there. And on a daily basis, they have pelicans that get tangled up. Sometimes pelicans get tangled up there, fishermen cut them loose, they fly over to our islands where they roost and end up tangled up in trees where they die over a few days once they're tangled. So all of these impacts that we see just come from lack of education, because most people, once you tell them the impacts that they have, then they try to do better. So in 2017, the Leave No Trace nominated the Indian River Lagoon Aquatic Preserves and the Spoil Islands as one of their hot spots. So hot spots are areas throughout the country that, because of increased usage, are seeing an increase in their impacts. So with this nomination, we had the Leave No Trace traveling trainers come out to our office for 2 weeks. And during that time, they helped us develop a plan to address the impacts that we were seeing. One of the biggest impacts that we see on spoil islands, aside from leaving trash, is human waste. Because people go to these islands and go camping, and that was really the driver to reach out to Leave No Trace to see how we could address these problems. Because we could come up with things, with ideas here, but because they have been around the country for so long, they've seen these problems in other areas and have addressed them. So instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, we reach out to people who understand how to address these problems. So some of the things, the activities we did during the Leave No Trace hotspot visits, where we did education and outreach events. We met with Boy Scouts. We did an event at Brevard Zoo. We did another one at Oxbow Eco Center. We did some at the Manatee Center. So we did a lot of outreach events with the Leave No Trace trainers to teach people about the Leave No Trace 7 principles. We also developed some literature. We had these booklets made up that are waterproof booklets to give out to boaters and kayakers about applying the Leave No Trace 7 principles specifically to our spoil islands and to the impacts that we were seeing there. We started a WAG bag program on our spoil islands. WAG bags, which you see in that picture, are bags that were designed for use in backcountry and for the military, which are bags that are used to collect human waste. They're like portable toilets, and they sell them in any camping section of stores and boating supply places. And one of the things we implemented was an education and outreach program where we put dispensers on islands that had these bags, and we would provide them for free to campers to get people to understand that this is something that's available as an alternative, whereas the soils on spoil islands, you can't just dig a hole and leave waste there because there's not enough bacteria to break down that waste like you might find out in a forest that has a different type of soil component. So we've had a pretty good response from the public about the WAG bag program, and once people realized that this was a much better alternative, we've started getting comments from island visitors that they are seeing less waste on our islands. So the 7 principles of Leave No Trace are plan ahead and prepare. When you're going out in nature, understand where you're going to be, make a plan. When people ask us about camping on spoil islands, the first thing we tell them is there are no restrooms, there is no fresh water, so you need to plan how you're going to deal with these issues. traveling and camping on durable surfaces so that you're not destroying our natural areas, disposing of waste, leaving what you find. Minimizing campfire impacts is also a big one because we see a lot of people go out to islands and start fires. They leave campfires unattended, they spread, and they think, well, it's just an island, it's not going to spread anywhere like a wildfire out in California does, but it still destroys habitat. Respect wildlife, and this is a big one in some of our areas because they are important bird rookeries on some of our spoil islands. We have a critical wildlife area in Brevard County. Here we have some islands within the Pelican Island National Wildlife Refuge that are important bird habitat. They're loafing areas for birds. Birds don't use them just for nesting, but especially in the winter months when we have birds that are migrating through here, these birds are flying thousands of miles, so they need to stop and rest, and they like the sandbars on spoil islands, which unfortunately are the same places that people like and dogs like. So these birds that need to be resting many times are flushed by boaters or people letting their dogs loose on islands. So we just educate people on how to not impact wildlife like that. And being considerate of other visitors. When there's a lot of people on an island, if somebody has music playing, you're disturbing the experience of somebody else that's on that island. So these next few slides just kind of enforce a little bit or go into more detail on these 7 principles. And these principles can be applied to any natural area that you're recreating on. It's not just spoil islands. It can be a park in the middle of a city as well. Disposing of waste properly, that's one that you would think people would understand, that you wouldn't have to tell them, but you'd be surprised how many times we find campfires or fire rings like this. So people use them as garbage cans, which you're burning trash, so you're releasing chemicals into the air. If you're cooking food over that, that's going into your food. And they leave trash behind, so the next campers that come can't use that fire ring until they clean it out. Leaving what you find is an important one because there's a lot of organisms that depend on things like the bones of other animals as a source of nutrition to complement their diets. And if everybody that visits a spoil island takes driftwood, they take any shells that they find or seeds, after time, those resources aren't going to be there for other visitors to enjoy. Campfire impacts, these are pictures of 2 of our spoil islands that have had fires on them or fires left unattended. And that's a big problem that we see. Or we have people that decide to build campfires on picnic tables and burn our picnic tables. And all of the amenities on our islands are built and installed by volunteers that take time out of their day, use fuel in their boats to go out there to install these amenities so that everybody can enjoy them. We have some wonderful volunteers that take care of our spoil islands, and to have somebody destroy their effort is really discouraging to them. Respecting wildlife, we know why we shouldn't be hugging manatees, but another big project we have in our office is we did an art contest with children to make signs for protecting birds on beaches, because a lot of the shorebirds we have nest on the ground, and they like wide open sandy beaches, which are the same ones we like, and having people come into these nesting areas or dogs disturbing them can destroy an entire colony. And then obviously being respectful of other visitors. As we're getting more people in our natural areas, we're having more encounters. People are becoming more aggressive towards each other as everyone's trying to get out in nature and relax, and instead they create stressful situations for each other. And we see that a lot in our state parks. Another part of the Leave No Trace program that we started was the authority of the resource, and it's an educational component that we use with other land managers throughout the region to teach them how to apply these Leave No Trace principles, how to deal with the public, how to interact with them without being what they call the fun police, not telling people what they can't do, but explain to them what they should do. So it's a very important educational component when you're trying to change people's behaviors to something that's more desirable. If you tell them, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that, and all they see are signs saying no, people don't listen to that, and that automatically shuts people down. But if you explain to them why other behaviors are more desirable or more appropriate, and that more people practice them as opposed to leaving trash, they say more people practice Leave No Trace, it has worked really well for us in addressing these problems that we see on spoil islands, and it's something that we think that all land managers in the area found very productive and very informative for them. So here's some of our shorebirds that we try to protect, our least terns. Our office is more than happy to partner with the Natural Resources Board and provide education and outreach of the Leave No Trace program. We can provide guidance on how you become a partner with Leave No Trace, because we became a partner with them through our friends group, Friends of the Spoil Islands. We have a membership that we pay every year into our Leave No Trace partnership that allows us to use their language. It provides a certain amount of technical support and guidance when developing language and materials for outreach components, which are really well designed by their outreach teams. A lot of times they will provide language that you didn't think of for a certain problem. So being able to partner with them and use their language, use their logos and things like that is a very important component of this Leave No Trace program. And like I said, we've seen tremendous results from it. And it is something that is easy to implement, and any organization can do it, can partner with them, and it does provide very good results. And Caitlin and I have brought some materials that we'll leave for the council, for the board, so that you can give them out to the public and use them for beach cleanups and waterway cleanups and such. And that's all I have. So if you have any questions.
Tom? I'm good. Thank you for coming tonight. I got a couple.
Mm-hmm.
In the Indian River area, do you know how many visitors come to visit?
I don't have those numbers now.
And if you could do just one thing to change how things are out there, I know you do the Leave No Trace and everything, but if there was just one thing and everybody would do just this one thing, what would it be?
To understand more how your everyday behaviors are connected to the lagoon. That everything you do, whether it's in the water or on the uplands, because we're so close to it, has an impact. Whether it's applying fertilizer on your yard, the vegetation that you plant, or your boating activities on our waterways. All of that has an impact. We're all part of the ecosystem. We're not separate. There's not an ecosystem and then humans. We're part of that ecosystem, and we have to understand that everything that we do has an impact on that, and that has an impact on us.
Well, that's fantastic. With our sustainable Sebastian, is Leave No Trace part of that? I thought it was, and we're pretty integrated with that, because I know we're out there every now and then picking up the stuff other people leave behind, and it's tonnage. I'm always amazed. Every year we go out there, it's tonnage.
Yes.
And it's just, now, one of the things you had mentioned was you don't want to be the fun police.
Right.
Which, nobody wants to be the fun police. But it sounds like behavior modification comes into play here. And the way you do behavior modification is basically through reward of good behavior.
Exactly.
Do you look at any ways that you can plug in, just say, licensing fees or something like that with boaters and fishermen, that if they take a course and Leave No Trace or something like that, maybe they could get a break on their fees or something like that?
I don't know about on their fees, but I know there are businesses, for example, like some kayaking outfitters, that if people rent from them and bring back a certain amount of trash, they get a discount on their rental fees. So things like that, where people get incentives that if they do something, if they pick up X number of pounds of trash, we'll give you a $5 discount on your rental fee. So that could be also an incentive that could be used for the boating community. If boaters that are using certain marinas or going to certain waterfront restaurants on their vessels, if there's some way that they can say, I did this good deed, and then that business gives them something in return.
And it's a great thing to do the good deed, wish you didn't have to get something in return to do it, but a lot of times that is the incentive, and it's just the way people work through that type of behavior modification. Does anybody else have any questions?
I had a comment. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. I think we were all part of some of the Indian River cleanup efforts, and the Spoil Islands in particular have impressed us in terms of the sheer amount, volume, weight of what was brought back on the collection event days. And so we put it into our sustainable Sebastian goals, and it is one of the activities we wanted to partner and know more about this. So thank you for coming. Some of the ideas that we had were, of course, along the idea of education, as you've had success in doing yourself. And part of it, like looking at where boats go out. So to get to a spoil island, you have to get there somehow on some kind of vessel. I don't think I've seen anybody swimming. And so, you know, the thought that at least from Sebastian's to launching areas, or the bigger launching areas, that if there was some way we could put something there, some signage, some offering that would help educate and remind, and, you know, whatever other things. For the materials that you brought with you, you know, we don't want to end up littering. Is there something that's more permanent that you think might be able to go in those areas?
On some of the beach accesses, what they've done is they have buckets, and they have sort of almost like these shelving systems where they put buckets and people can go and get the bucket, and then when they're walking the beach, they pick up trash, and then they bring it back, put their bucket back, and then the next person comes and can take that bucket. And that's something that could be potentially used at a boat ramp, where you have the instruments there so that when people go out to the islands, they can do a cleanup while they're there, and then bring it back to, and have a dumpster sitting there where they can leave that trash. Because if it's a small trash can, it's very hard when you do a cleanup on an island, as you know, because of the things you pick up, to dump it in a small trash can. So there would need to be a larger container like a dumpster available, even if it's one weekend a month that it's out there and it's made known to the boating community. On this day, we're going to have this equipment out here. If anybody wants to do a cleanup, there's going to be a place to dispose of this.
And for boaters in the area, when they register, is any of this kind of material made available to them?
I don't know if they have that at the DMV where they do their registration. So that would be a question of getting it there. We have worked with, we did Leave No Trace at West Marine stores, Leave No Trace workshops there. So they have always been very receptive to doing education for boaters. And then DEP also has the Clean Boater Program, which comes through state funding. So they do have funds available for providing outreach material, or for providing, for example, these bags that I brought today that are reusable trash pickup bags for boaters are provided through the Clean Boater and Clean Marina program.
We have a power squadron here in Sebastian, and they actually are meeting in February that for training purposes at the building next door that we share. So I would be happy to take some flyers there, brochures there for that.
And we've done outreach with the power squadrons in Martin County as well. So they've always been a great partner, and they do reach a lot of boaters. We also have an island adoption program for our recreational islands. So of the 38 recreational islands that we have in this region, I think we were counting 29 of them are adopted already. So there's a few islands in St. Lucie County that are still looking for adopters, but our island adopters do a great job at going out and doing cleanups and picking up trash, and they provide us cleanup reports. They also serve as our eyes and ears on the island because we can't be out. I mean, we have over 100 islands that we manage between recreation and conservation. So having the island adoption program really helps us a lot because people are out there all the time. They take ownership of the island and they care for it, and they let us know when something is wrong with it.
The state of Florida has an online boating class that's required for young people in order to operate boats. And working with the state, we talk about educational programs, working with the state to have a component in there that talks about this might be a useful way to start these kids out young. So that might be something you might want to interface with. Coast Guard Auxiliary, who teaches safe boating classes, also has an environmental component that we might work with the auxiliary to see if they couldn't expand that for the same kind of thing. I taught with the auxiliary for 10 years, so been pretty amenable to these kinds of things.
Right.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but state of Florida safe boating class would seem to be a logical place to interface.
It would be, because I mean, since it covers boating regulations, litter laws also apply to that, so.
Do you happen to have any islands that are wanting to be adopted in Indian River County?
I think we had IR 43, which is down south, and 42. I know we had 2 down south and IR 3 up here. I had somebody that was interested in IR 3, but they haven't heard back from them yet. That's the one right across from Squid Lips. The rest of them have all have adopters.
Well, I'm sure we'd be interested in adopting that island.
Well,
Perhaps.
especially for some
Are
of
we
us
going to swim out there?
There are some of us who actually have boats tied up at Squid Lips, so it would be an easy reach to be able to do something like that.
If available.
Yep.
I know that we learned during the coastal cleanup when we have a dumpster at the Main Street boat ramp, and we talk to the boaters as they leave, and we ended up recruiting a lot of people for the cleanup, and we filled that dumpster and then some. And we definitely felt that if we had put one there every weekend, it would be full every weekend.
Yes, it would.
And that's the problem. We have like one small dumpster at the boat ramp. We really can't have the big dumpster every time. But if she has these cards for boaters, and I know we mentioned before arranging for like a few of us to meet at the Main Street boat ramp for a couple hours on a Saturday morning and try to get materials out to boaters. Maybe if we combine that with having a dumpster that day, and then have Waste Management pick it up. I'll check on the cost of that, because in the past, it's always been part of the cleanup. They paid for that service, so I can check with Waste Management and see what that would be. And it would be a great way to reach out, so we could hand these out and let them know that anything they gather, we'll have a dumpster for them, and then that's encouraging them to gather more. Because it's difficult when they have to bring it on their boat and they have to put it into their cars and go find a dumpster, and no one wants to charge all that around. What are some other things that we can assist with as the board with outreach?
Yeah, getting the word out to boaters. We have, like I said, we've got plenty of material that we can give you to hand out, because a lot of times we don't have the staff to be able to be at the boat ramps to hand things out, so.
Yeah,
So really just the outreach and talking to boaters about it. And
your staff has a huge area, so we're really thankful that it came all the way up to Sebastian. We're like the end of your area here, so we really appreciate it. Also, are you available April 23rd on Saturday to participate in our Earth Day event?
I think we're booked for Oxbow that day, for their Earth Day.
Always, I know, we compete with them, man. But if you aren't participating, then we would like to have your materials, and we put up a sign for it, and we'll have someone assigned to do some outreach while we're there.
We might be able to get our friends group, Friends of the Spoil Islands, to come in our place here.
That would be great.
We do Oxbow.
Yeah, that would be great.
They're going to be at Nature Fest now in February at the Manatee Center in Fort Pierce.
Because ours is we hold it at the Riverview Park, which is right at our main boat ramp, and is also right at our main kayak launch. So we get a lot of boaters who come to our events. So.
Right.
And then there was always she also had this other program, this Bark Ranger program. It's wonderful, about the ethics for like leave no trace ethics regarding
recreating
pet.
with your dog. So Bark Ranger is a program that started at Olympia National Park. Bark stands for bag your poop, always wear a leash, respect wildlife, and know where you can go. So it's an educational program for dog owners to enjoy the outdoors with their dogs. A lot of people go to natural areas and think, well, I'm in the woods, I'll just let my dog run loose. And then the dogs, many times the dogs get hurt. They run into wildlife. We have venomous snakes. There are bobcats, coyotes, and the dogs can get injured. Or the dogs can injure wildlife like gopher tortoises or rabbits or ground nesting birds. So Bark Ranger is a program that we started in partnership with St. Lucie County because they were seeing impacts from dog owners and off-leash dogs at their parks and natural areas. And to educate people on safe and fun ways to recreate with your dog while protecting the environment and still having fun. And dog owners can sign a little pledge card and their dog gets a little tag shaped like Florida that shows that they're Bark Rangers. And if somebody wants to do the educational training to become a Bark ambassador, they can go out with their dog to dog parks and such and teach other dog owners about this program. So we've done outreach events in St. Lucie County at Walton Rocks, which is our dog beach, or an off-leash dog beach that we have down there. And also did some at some other places within the county to educate people on the impacts that off-leash dogs can have in natural areas.
Yeah, that's neat, and I see that you can go to the Aquatic Preserves office, which is pretty far from most of us, so I thought I might be interested. I think that I would be interested in getting them. We're out in conservation areas, we can hand out information. I think it's a great program, and it's definitely useful here. We have so many conservation areas within our city that people go into with their pets, and I think that it's really relevant in our city for sure. So.
Yep, well, Caitlin will be taking the lead on the Bark Ranger program, so she'll be able to work with you to do some education and outreach and some training classes and events here.
Well, thank you. Is there any other questions for our guest speaker? Anybody participating online got any questions?
No one has raised their hand.
I'd like to thank you for coming to our Natural Resource Board meeting tonight. It was very informative, and hopefully we can assist you in your goal in keeping our Indian River and the other areas that you represent.
Yep, thank you for having us.
And clean. Thank you very much. Okay, we will move on. I'd like to make note that Ms. Mosblick has arrived. She showed up online here. And we'll move on to number 7, old business. And we'll start talking about Earth Day event planning, our favorite thing to do. It actually is our big thing. It's definitely what we do. Do you want to?
Well, we only have 3 more meetings until it comes up quick. It comes up so quick. All right. I believe that I will still have the support of Ron from the Parks Department, who's done such a great job in helping organize all the vendors, and that's a huge job. So I kind of highlighted in this list I gave you of the items we need to address immediately. I know that I just got the information to Nikki about our account, the email account to send out the save the date notices, and I'll be adding the online applications to the event website. I think everything about the applications was great from last year, so we'll do the same way where we post them online, and just see, work down the list. I talked to Debbie Perez from Waste Management and confirmed the date that we'll also be combining it with the recycle and household waste event. So that's been set.
Kim, can you hear me? This is Nikki.
Yes.
Sorry, I have a quick question about the save the date email. I appreciate you sending me the password, and I'll get that out. I'll do that tonight. Is there a link already that we have for the application, or is this not? Do we not want to advertise that yet? We're just going to kind of say this, literally save the date, and we'll be in touch with more information.
You can put the link to the Natural Resource Board Earth Day event page. That page is still there.
Okay.
Just send them to that page, say visit this page for application appearing shortly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
all
and
right,
then they can
Thank you.
just access it from there.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, Donna, you have any update about the art club?
No, but we're poised to have another wonderful Lagoon art show, and I have to reach out to the teacher again. So I would come to your office and get some more materials to hand out to the students, to give them ideas that they could make their posters about, you know?
Yeah. Sure, I have tons of materials in my office, so I'm sure we can give them something to work with. Let's see. Keep in River beautiful. Daisy Packer is no longer a contact there, so I'll be finding a new contact for that, and then follow through on that. Brian O'Neill has graciously continued managing the entertainment because he's done such a wonderful job. He called today, and we finalized the schedule. So, let's see, we already have the lineup set with Jason Nell, the Golden Euchers, and the Robert Johnson Band. And then we have Chaos Sound doing the sound again. So we're really thankful to Brian for continuing to take the lead on that, even though he's not on the board. Then the NRB website, I'm working on the flyer, trying to get it up as soon as possible. Charles, will you continue as master of ceremony?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I will figure out who's assigned Gopher Tour, so we have time for that. Scavenger hunt, did we like the format that it was last year? Do we want to go back to a traditional style hunt? I like having a scavenger hunt. I like, engaging the visitors and the kids especially to interact with the booths and the event. So what are your thoughts?
I like the scavenger hunt. Is there any way of incorporating local businesses to expand out? Like, we got our scavenger hunt for the kids in the park, the people in the park, but then to try to include the businesses where, like if you went to Captain Harem's and took a picture next to the captain, or you went to Squid Lips and got a...
That's really more of a Chamber of Commerce thing.
Well, we could tie in with them as well if we had to.
Well, what I want to keep it is something that the kids can do while they're visiting the event and learn something, engaging them with the event and learning something about the environment and the lagoon. And
Plus, you don't want them going away from the park. You want them coming to the park.
That's right.
We want to keep kids who could be young nearby, so everything should be pretty local or maybe across the street.
Gotcha.
And I would think that all the questions would be in line with what our focus is the NRB and learning of those kind of things. And I'm in favor of a traditional style. I mean, I like the GPS that's new and different. Kids were quick to use, but some of them had to go and use their parents' phone. And they had to download the app. I'm not saying we couldn't do something different, but I think that certainly the traditional one is a lot easier. And they also, I think, a couple of years back when we did it, they were waiting to see who got announced at the end of the day to get their prize. Whereas last year, I mean, it was kind of off COVID years still. We let them know we'll be in touch with them.
We just put all the complete ones that were correct into a jar, and then we just randomly drew out a name. And then, they found out by the end of the event. So that was neat. Probably the same time as we did the poster contest. I like the way we have the little clipboards and little golf pencils they can take. It's not like, I agree. I think and families would do it together. Whereas with the phones, they kind of went off on their own.
One of the things we did a couple of years back was to have them bring something that was recyclable and something that was not recyclable, just as a small object, so they were helping pick up at the event too. Just
right. So we agree with traditional style. Anyone else have any feedback on that?
I had something about the gopher tortoise thing, because I'm just, can't we get a scout troop maybe that might want to help with that? Because it seems like kids enjoy that so much, and kids with other kids kind of excite them. Right. Versus us old people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, usually we have the Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
And they were like half staff, so everyone was kind of short on volunteers last year. Yeah. I think we'll look at, it'll be different this year, but we usually do put someone from Boys and Girls Club on it. and they'll crawl in there with them, yeah. And we're less likely to crawl in there with them.
Yes.
Dr. Carey, that'll be you again this year, right?
I didn't do it the last time and I couldn't get out.
Now you know how the tourists feel. Then what we put on the sheets for vendor applications and is would they want to sponsor an activity, and then we create a list from there, and I'll contact them. Do they need any supplies? Like I gave some of our clipboards to ELC, and some pencils at another one, some paints we had for another one. So we have a lot of supplies from past Earth Days, chalk and random things sitting up there that that we can offer to people that want to do an activity. That worked out really well, I think, more than us sponsoring activities ourselves, seeing as we're limited, with the 9 of you. What were the thoughts about the living docks? Do we want to do another living dock installation?
Oh, yes.
Because we definitely have plenty of dock, and we have the observation dock over there, and I think that will be a good one that's accessible, and I think we measured that it's pretty good, right? I like to be where they can walk from the event, so I want it to be closed, but.
Right. Well, we could make another survey and see. We were talking about the kayak docks, I think, and or the observation dock, and then the ones we used last year. I thought it went over really well. So,
Right.
So Thomas and I already talked about doing this again. So
I know Vice Mayor Jones is a big fan of the project as well, and was interested in doing other docks that belong to the city. But I really want to focus on something that they can walk out to from. But we had great participation. It was a really cool activity. And I know the county still has more of those mats, so I just wanted to make sure everyone else felt the same about it. And then we need someone to volunteer to contact volunteers.
I can do that again.
You will?
I can do that again.
Thank you, Ruth. And advertising, I do the flyer and I'll do the contact with the school board. Just someone, I think, Donna, you gave us a list last time, didn't you? So we really have that list already. If I think I still have that list.
And I can print it out again.
Would anyone like to take the lead on the marketing, just to make sure that our press release and the flyers get out to everyone?
That's something I can do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I can do it.
Thank you, Charles. All right. Right.
I see under advertising, you have create school board flyer.
That's me. So it's our flyer for the event, but they have us add a disclaimer that the school board is not a part of this event, something like that. That's a certain wording that we have to put on there, and then have to take off the two, add the Periodola and Mash Monkeys, no brewery advertising on it to go out to students. So we take those two logos off, and I put the disclaimer on there, and then I just give them the PDF. They approve it, and then they put it into the digital backpack so all the students get it.
And as far as the local online event calendars, we already have a list of them that I can take responsibility for getting that information out to the online calendars.
So Donna will be the online, and Charles can be the printed delivery, so we can, I know I talked to last time the Disney Resort. They would like copies. They'll hand it out to their guests too. So they're also a good source for volunteers, and I have a contact there as well. So that works out. So the online printed, and I'll be the creating the material. All right. Thank you. And Thomas and Jeff, do you want to take the lead on the living docs again?
Yeah.
So if you could, your assignment will be to determine the place and how many mats we would need, like how many pilings would work.
Recollection how many we had last year?
Like 40. I think we put 2 per piling.
I think we could probably expand that, frankly.
Yeah, it didn't take us that long at all to get them all out.
Yeah, they're quick to do when they already have the shells tied on them. Pretty much,
We really do need to survey
right.
the pilings and see how well the mats survived and whether or not anything settled out on them, I think.
Well, it'd be nice to pull one off, take a look at it, and use
Yeah.
that as the demo if it
Take
grew.
some pictures, yeah.
Well, I'd suggest that maybe we take a little trip over there and,
I mean,
yeah, we take skiff over there and
You'll have to twist my arm to get me out on the water, yeah.
yeah, right?
I also think in light of what we heard earlier, this goes back a little bit and it's out of place here, so I apologize. I think NRB ought to adopt that island across from Squid Lips if it's available. I think the board ought to adopt it and work by example.
Now, I can't volunteer the city's supplies, but the city does have a skiff that's not nice like Dr. Carrier's nice boats that he calls a skiff, but that would be good for, putting some of the bags on. If yours was the people mover and this other one could be the trash mover, I'm sure we could arrange something.
Pretty easy to get to, and, we could even work with the aquatic resource people and perhaps fashion a sign of sorts that says something about the stewardship of this island is supported by the City of Sebastian Natural Resources Board.
We have signs on the islands now, and they have space for naming the adopter.
Okay.
Do we need to have a motion to do that? To say that we volunteer to be the adopters?
No, we just have to look into what the commitment is, and then I bring, I'm sure it's some sort of contract. So we'll look into it as far as what is required of city resources, and then we bring it to the board and have a whole picture of what's required.
So
I know
can
that
we
also from the last cleanup event, a lot of the people that helped clean, they signed up their name and address, and they were interested in doing other similar events. So I'm sure that we could have some of them on board as well.
So can we put that as an official agenda item for next meeting to have the contract reviewed so we can, I don't know.
We have previously adopted a spoil on the Natural Resources Board. It was way before my time, but I found pictures of it, so I know that we did it at one point. I think it was like 2004.
Okay. Are there any additional items we need to talk about with the Earth Day event planning?
So by the next, do you think we could arrange before the next meeting that we'll assess and know what we want for the living dock, where we are on that? Okay. And I know that council and city manager wanted an assessment of that, and we tried, but the water was murky, so maybe we'll have better luck this next time.
Kim, when you have the flyer done, can you send it around in email to us so that I can send it out to volunteer?
Yep, I'll send out the PDF as soon as I have it. I'm working on it. Sometimes it goes quick, sometimes it doesn't. But I have been working on it. Last year's was easy because I just used the one from 2020 after it got canceled, so that was easy peasy. I'm not that lucky this year. I guess most of it is just getting the word out, and Nikki's gonna send out the save the date. If anyone has any organizations or businesses they would like to invite, keep that in mind. Let me know. We'll add their email in. If you have contacts for organizations, maybe a nonprofit, environmental groups. There's so many out there that I know we don't reach all of them, but I'm sure many of them would like the opportunity for outreach. Especially an event that they don't have to, that's free to participate in.
I have one question more about the flyer, and that is, we had a contest winner from the art from previous years. Is there any way to integrate that into the flyer that we send out?
I'm using some of Donna's art right now, but we didn't scan any of them. We gave them back.
We gave them back to the school before scanning them.
So this year, our goal is to scan the winners so we can put them on our website and then use them for next, and I think it's a great idea. Yeah, absolutely. I at least would like the chance to put it on our website, but that'll be on our list for this year. We'll get it right. We'll get it. And just keep checking your email as this process rolls out. I'll be needing volunteers to take on, small tasks as we go along, so. And then we also have the Gmail account, and I'll send out that email so that, can send any communications through there. Do we want to, I guess we have seeds. We'll be doing seed packets. So we'll be having a seed packet filling event and folding brochures. And then maybe the folder. And the other thing, we gave away the tote bags last year. We had a budget for that. I'm going to check and see if we can have a budget for a giveaway. Do we want to do the same bags? Do we want to do something different? Just think about it. By the next meeting, I'll have an idea of what budget we may have, and look around and see, you can just Google it and look up some of the promotional things, what things you think will do well here. There was one that city manager brought me from a meeting from for St. Lucie Parks and Rec. It's a little watering can that had native seeds in it. It's really cute. But maybe not that, but something along those lines. But there's a lot of things out there, so if you want to take a look around, see what you think will be useful, that we could put a logo on and hand out, and we'll discuss it more in depth next meeting. And always, you can just send me something. If you see something cool, just send me the link.
Okay, anybody have anything additional? Dr. Mosbleck, do you have anything you want to add to this? She's participating online.
Sorry,
That's okay. I just thought I'd ask before I move on.
trying to find the mute button. No, that's okay. Kim, I was actually just looking through the list. I can't find the list of vendors from last year. If you think of any that should be included for the save the date that weren't included last year, would you mind kind of forwarding me
There should
that
be a
list?
table. The table isn't in there? It should be like an Excel table.
I can't find it.
Okay, I'll send it to you. It's in my office.
Okay,
I'll send it
perfect.
tomorrow
That'd be
morning.
great. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any additional questions for item 7, Earth Day event planning? Of course, we'll be talking about it again in next meeting. If not, we'll move on to item 8, member matters. I guess we'll start over with Tom. Welcome back, sir. Dr. Carey? Ms. Ware?
Yes, I am pushing the Sebastian Art Studio Tour, which is February 12th. And it is, if you've never done it before, there's maps, and you go around to all these different artist studios in Sebastian. And it's free, and you get to see a lot of art, and you get to meet the artists themselves. And I'm on the tour this year, so if you want a brochure, come up and get it. Thanks.
That's pretty amazing. What time is that, February 12th?
It's from 10 to 5.
10 to 5, okay. And that's the Sebastian Art Tour, Meet the Artist. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Ruth, do you have anything?
I have one thing. Today I attended the MRC's seminar, which was What You Plant Matters. And I need a little more education on the topic. So I enjoyed it. What I'd like to pass along to you all is they posted that on March 10th, the Lagoon Health Report Card will be available. It'll be posted by them on their website, as well as they'll have a Zoom presentation on it. So if anyone is interested in knowing that, it's March 10th on their website.
Excellent. So we're looking forward to the Lagoon Health Report Card. I think we were a C last time, or at least our area was. Everybody north and south of us are really bad. C plus. Yeah. I don't know if you guys are visiting north and south of us, but Titusville had a really hard time with sewer leaks last year, and the river was green and yellow. And I've never seen anything like that before, and it was just really, hopefully they're coming around this year, but between the development and the sewer lines and septics, I think we could be doing a lot better out there. Okay, we're still on member matters. Dr. Mosbleck, do you have anything for us?
Nope, nothing here. Thank you, though.
Anybody else participating online have anything? Okay, then it's just me. I'd like to remind everybody it is Black History Month, and we're looking for ways to celebrate that part of American history. And I'd like to also thank everybody for participating on the Natural Resource Board, and I'm very honored to be here with everybody. Other than that, that's about all I have for member matters. We'll move on to staff matters. Does our staff have matters today?
We always matter, but no, I have no
Yes.
notes. I have nothing to.
Anybody in the back room? Got to ask you guys. Okay, we'll keep on moving forward then. Thank you. I want to thank everybody on staff. I hate referring to you just as staff, but you're so important. They wouldn't hear or see us if it wasn't for you guys. And I don't know what you guys do in the back room, but it's amazing. And thank you for everything. Item 10, items for next agenda. Obviously, we'll be talking about the Earth Day event planning and everything goes on with that.
The Adopt a Spoil Island,
Adopt a Spoil Island.
Oyster
That'd
Mat
be great.
Wraps update.
Love to. What was that, Ruth? Oh, and our guest speaker will be rescheduled, Ms. Kima Linderman from the Pelican Island Elementary Eco Troop. Okay, if there's nothing else for this, we will adjourn this meeting and we'll call for adjournment.